The first High Republic Phase 3 novel is just around the corner. Eye of Darkness by George Mann comes out on November 14th. I got the chance to read it a little early, so here are my spoiler-free thoughts on the book. In short, I thought it was very good and brought me right back into the hype I had for Phase 1. I enjoyed Phase 2, and I can already see how it will be paying off in this final round of storytelling, but I did spend the entire time anxious to get back to the Phase 1 characters. I fell in love with Bell, Burry, Elzar, Porter, Avar, Reeth, Ram, Geode, Vernestra, Imric, Zine, Markion, and many more, and we were left on this massive cliffhanger after the fall of Starlight Beacon. As much as I grew to love new characters like Kevmo, Marta, Yana, and Axel, I couldn't help but keep looking forward to Phase 3. The Eye of Darkness was worth the wait. I flew through this book. I read it in about 3 sittings and would have finished it sooner if I didn't have to put it down to cover Ahsoka, which was a pretty great feeling, to be frustrated that I had to pause reading one very fun Star Wars story so I could watch another great Star Wars story. The format reminded me of Light of the Jedi and The Rising Storm. Lots of very fast chapters that kept me moving, lots of characters spread out across the galaxy, fast-paced and exciting. I love Star Wars books like that. The story picks up almost exactly 1 year after the destruction of Starlight Beacon. In the comic Eye of the Storm, we saw the Nihil put up what they called a storm wall that effectively cut off their territory from the rest of the galaxy. Nobody can get in or out without their specific hyperdrive technology, and that's the big central problem of this book. Some Jedi are looking for ways into Nihil territory, some are trapped in there trying to escape or help the innocent people who are also trapped, and they can't communicate with one another, which is a central theme to the book. The struggle to maintain hope and light and life when you're all alone. The first books had characters proudly declaring, "We are all the Republic," but it's obviously hard to feel that when you're isolated and have no clue if your friends are coming to help. Even the Jedi who aren't trapped are feeling the loneliness and desperation. They're on the borders of Nihil territory fighting raiders, and they're unable to return home to the Jedi Temple, so they're struggling to maintain their identities as defenders of light and life rather than just warriors, which is relevant to what we recently saw Ahsoka grappling with. In fact, a lot of these scenarios seem like they run parallel to the Clone Wars. The Jedi Order's response to the Nihil and their Eaters of the Force is similar to their response to the Separatist movement, promoting Jedi faster, additional combat training. We've been guessing since the High Republic Initiative started that we would probably witness some events that drove the Jedi Order into change so that they would become more like what we saw in the prequel era. The fight against the Nihil is the start of a very slow death for the Jedi. We know the Jedi and the Republic will come out of all of this victorious, but they will also be changed in a way that Palpatine will be able to swoop in, manufacture a conflict, and he will know exactly what needs to happen to break the Jedi and their philosophy during the Clone Wars. There's also some good contrast for the Republic as it deals with the Nihil versus the Separatist movement. Padme criticized her government's unwillingness to deal with the situation diplomatically. To be fair, the Senate was under the control of a Sith Lord, but still, there's some good commentary on when someone or a group is worth bargaining with and when they're not. Sometimes violence breaks out because there are social issues that need to be addressed, but other times people are violent simply because they are greedy and they want more. Many Star Wars stories are about when it's the right time to take a stand and fight, and Eye of Darkness is one of them. The Nihil continue to be a chaotic but compelling enemy to read about. They are the perfect illustration of what George described as the dark side, even though they aren't Force users. They are the epitome of short-term pleasure, only doing what they want in the immediate moment with no thought given to those around them, but that's obviously unsustainable and destructive. This sets them apart from the Sith, who are able to see a long-term picture, but one that's still selfish and unfulfilling. I still appreciate how distinct the Nihil feel when compared to the Sith. As a High Republic fan who has gone all in on this era, reading everything I can, Eye of Darkness was a great way to kick off Phase 3, and I will say that if you're someone who read all or some of Phase 2, I think you will feel rewarded. There were definitely moments that connected strongly back with that time period. We get some questions answered that High Republic fans have had for over a year since Phase 1 concluded, and those answers are tied into the past as Yoda first suggested. That said, I don't think I would consider Eye of Darkness a good place to jump into this era. Back in Phase 1, every story felt like it could be an introduction or an entry point. I think Phase 2 also would have been a fine place to start reading since we jumped back in the timeline. Eye of Darkness feels like it's more for the people who are already familiar with this story, and I think that's great. George Mann reminds us of the important details we need to know, but not much time is spent on that. The book just picks up and starts running, and I should point out that the action scenes are still very cinematic, which is something I've always felt the High Republic has excelled at. I can easily follow what's happening and see it in my head, and it looks awesome in my imagination. Basically, if you like the High Republic and you've been antsy for Phase 3 to begin, I don't think you'll be disappointed in Eye of Darkness. We get to catch up with many, but not all, of our favorite characters of the era. We get to see them dealing with isolation, loss, failure, and many internal struggles, along with the obvious threats of the Nihil and their monsters. It's a fun, fast, and exciting read, and it very much has me looking forward to more. We've got the Shadows of Starlight comic out right now, and Cavan Scott's Phase 3 comic begins this month. Unfortunately, the next book won't be here until January 30th, which is a shame because I get just excited for these books as I do for the streaming series. But those are my spoiler-free thoughts on the book. I've got a summary of Phases 1 and 2 coming out soon to prepare for the official release of Eye of Darkness on November 14th, so keep an eye out for that. If you want to listen to the audiobook, you can pre-order it for free on Audible by clicking on the link in the description or by visiting audibletrial.com/Star Wars Explained. I don't know for sure, but I expect it will be narrated by Mark Thompson, who does a great voice for Marchion Ro, but the audiobooks for Star Wars are great with sound effects and music. It's like listening to a movie. You can pre-order the book right now for free by signing up for a free trial, or you can get just about any Star Wars audiobook, or get any book you want. The point is, you get a free book and you'll be supporting the channel when you do. But that's it for today. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel to keep up with all our High Republic coverage, follow us on our socials, and consider checking out our Patreon page, where we'll hold a book club discussion of Eye of Darkness in a few weeks. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.